Bold and Blonde. Welcome to the Mindset Evolution podcast. The podcast to get tools for a powerful mind you can use immediately every day. Get tips, tricks, skills, and inspiration to create what you desire and achieve a content life wherever you are. And here are your hosts, Kathi and Daisy.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Bold and Blonde Mindset Evolution, the podcast that gives you tools for a powerful mind. I'm Kathi Tate, your host from Down Under. With me, as always, your host from America, Daisy Pap. Hi, Daisy.
Hello, dear Kathi. How are you? I'm so glad to see you, and let's do it.
Let's do it. So, if you have been a long-time listener, you will know that Daisy likes to do little word plays.
That's true. I enjoy that.
Yes. And so that's what we're doing today. And you would have seen from the ambiguous episode name, Ships and Wrecks. What is it we are talking about with Ships and Wrecks, Daisy? Over to you.
Well, I really appreciate that play on words that I'm sharing with you from time to time in private. And this is one of them. And I think this is awesome, that it is phenomenal that it's time to speak about ships and wrecks. And what I'm referring to when I speak about that almost picturesque metaphor or analogy, relationships and wrecks. Maybe now it makes more sense. Those who just read the title and out of curiosity pushed the button play. Now, I think it is a good idea that we stop just slipping into relationships, but check that ship, check that vessel, check the boat before you even step foot on it. Because you don't know if it's leaking, if it's about to sink, if it is at all capable of crossing the waters. It can be a creek, it can be a river, it can be a sea, it can be lakes, it can be oceans. And I think it is a good idea to really have a look before you enter that relationship, what the ship is all about, and how much is it in alignment with your vision of relationships. Of course, it becomes much easier when we know what we want, instead of slipping into it and then testing the waters on a ship that might sink. Now, the wrecks are those relationships that didn't make it. And
I have a few of those.
Welcome to the club. Now, I'm speaking not solely about romantic relationships or intimate relationships. I'm speaking about relationships in general. That can be business, that can be all sorts of relations. Now, before we enter those or before we invest in them, isn't it a good idea to have a look and check? Who out there of our listeners goes and buys a car without ever seeing a picture of it, without ever reading a description of it, without even knowing of the condition of it, and just blindly buys it? I understand there are auctions and you don't see what's in the box that you're buying. I get it, or the box that you're bidding for or bidding on. I cannot really think of anyone who I know who would, without knowing or without a warranty or without a refund policy, wants to buy a vehicle, any vehicle. Before I buy a bicycle, I want to try it out. I want to see if it's comfortable, if the steering is comfortable for me, how it's working, is it smooth, how the tires. We do it with shoes. We want to test, is it a good fit or not? I understand testing the bicycle and testing the shoes, if they're comfortable, is a physical thing. I'm not suggesting to physically test the relationships that might end up as future wrecks. That's counterproductive. She's giggling.
I am giggling because all through that I'm thinking, is she going to say test drive? Because I know she doesn't believe that when it comes to the early part of a relationship.
You mean the physical encounter?
Yes, I do.
Or the intimate encounter. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm sure you'll talk about that in a minute, but I think that's a good start to explaining the title, explaining what we're talking about. and a good start to touching on a story that is a good analogy. So would you go and hand over thousands and thousands of dollars to buy a vehicle you'd never seen, touched, heard of, don't know where it came from, don't know if it's been in an accident, don't know if it's going to fit you and your family, don't know what it's going to be like, as opposed to what you need right now?
Or what you want.
Right. I guess that's a similar kind of situation that will start people thinking about it. However, I think where it falls down is that a car is a thing. And that is very different to a person. So I'm sure that you've got more to say yet, though. I have to jump in every few minutes so they remember I'm here.
Dear, I'm so glad that you bring in the aspect, yes, I speak about something monetary, materialistic when I speak about a car. Very good point. Now, most humans I know, actually, I don't know of anyone who would purchase something unseen, unheard of, untested, unlooked at, and it's money. Where are the values of, ladies and gentlemen? So you'd be more careful in investing some money into something than when it comes to your emotions, your mental well-being, your love, your lovability. Where does that come from? I think we do very well as humans and members of the human family, of the one human family, that we start valuing our investment, our emotional investment, our energetic investment, our physical investment, our mental investment, and I'm not even speaking about our intimate investment. And I go back to the car. Most people I know of, when they buy a car, they either want a warranty on it or they pay insurance on it. And then I know humans who jump into ships, relationships, as if there was no tomorrow. I'm so confused. And I'd like to lift the veil and I'd like to bring some light into that. That humans start valuing themselves more and stop believing that I am not whole without my significant other. Why is the other significant or more significant than I? To me, that's already alarming and sinking when we go by values.
Yeah, I think that this is a great place to really look at it from. I know that myself in my past, I had a very big need to find a partner for a long time. And it wasn't that I wasn't independent enough to do what I needed to do on my own, because I was for many years. It was like there was some sort of hole and I thought that this partner would fill it. Turns out the case that wasn't right. But I did spend a long time acting that way, just trying to fill this spot with not enough regard to my values and with not enough regard to what I was truly worth and without enough regard to the consequences of what jumping in would do to my life. And so I've had several large lessons around this myself. And so I'm quite positive there's thousands of you out there just like me. And we do grow up with traumas sometimes, and we do grow up with preconditioned notions and conceptions from what our family showed us, maybe not even in words, but just with their actions. And part of that in my family was you got married. That's what you did. We come from a culture where single parents were not approved of. You had a partner, and that was what the family was. It was a mother, a father, and children, and that was how you were expected to behave. And so I did grow up with this conditioning around that and this self-belief that I was never really whole if I didn't have that partner. And my goodness, it took a long time to get rid of that. I'm finally free of it, which is such a relief, because it used to sometimes consume me in moments where I felt like I'd failed because of that conditioning. And it wasn't even that it was the best thing for me, because I ended up being just fine without that partner for huge periods of time. And I wish that I had known all this before, in that I would have invested my emotions, my energy, my mental state, my physical time, and that intimacy with a much higher standard of person had I had that higher standard for myself. And I think that's the key here. And I think that's what I would like us to inspire our listeners about.
And how much did it cost you? Your investment, your physical, mental, spiritual, energetic investment? How much did it cost you?
Let's just say there were some dire consequences in my life in different areas and set me back many times from where I would be had I not done these mistakes or had I not gone through these challenges. And had I made better decisions, I would probably be a lot wealthier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would probably, well, perhaps I don't like to look back and do that, because every single one of those crazy things that I did that had consequences, I learned something super valuable about myself. So you can play the what if game, but I don't like to look back.
No.
I like to think about now. And I think now that I've learned so much from those experiences, but I also realize and acknowledge that probably my life wouldn't have been as rocky or difficult had I had more care as to where I invested myself. And that's really the point, I think, that we want to make, isn't it? Where are you investing yourself, and are they worthy? Do you believe that you are worthy? These were the things that stopped me from making better choices.
I'd like to circle back a little. If I heard you correctly, the first thing you mentioned when I asked you, how much did it cost you? You referred to you'd be much wealthier. You see how instinctive.
Yes, that was the most obvious one.
But why is it not the question, I'd be much healthier? Isn't it much more important that we are healthier on all levels of our being instead of wealthier of all aspects of our being? I'm just asking questions. I'm the blonde.
Okay, I want to answer that before we move on, because I don't put the state of my health in anybody else's hands than my own. That's why I didn't mention it, because how healthy I am is completely on me and my choices for myself. That's my answer to that. Whereas the wealth is much more easier influenced when you've got joint finances in a relationship. You don't really have joint health so much.
I agree.
So that's why I came up with that. But I think you've got a good point, because the cost to me emotionally and mentally and energetically was high in instances. Several specific instances, I had physical damage and mental damage and had to repair myself over time. And it also had consequences on the people in my life. So I see your point. And yes, there were some severe, let's say a severe price I paid many times with those consequences from making decisions that turned out to be not the best path for me. But they also sent me down a path to great personal lessons.
Yeah,
that
growth.
I feel I needed. So, yeah.
Opportunity to grow.
I like to balance, well, I suffered this, but I gained this. And then I like to focus on the gain. So sometimes it's hard to get these answers out of me, I admit.
I think it is a good moment in time that I state that I'm absolutely a believer of lasting, committed, intimate, monogamous relationships when it comes to intimate relationships. Nevertheless, we're living in a time and in an era where it is so easy to throw it away and get a new one. Paper, car, shoes, electronics, friendships, homes for some people, clothing, not around the globe, but in many countries around the globe. And I think before entering a relation, business, family, community, friendship, loving, romantic, platonic, it is a good idea to think about and to acknowledge and to measure or evaluate what type of ship is a good fit for me? What type of ship is my desire? What is it that I need? What is it that I wish for? What is it that I like? What is it that I desire? And then go backwards. Who is somebody compatible to travel the waters on that ship? Now, I understand that what I'm saying may sound a little philosophical or very metaphorical or as an analogy. Yes, emotions are symbolized by water throughout history. When you listen to music, in songs, in literature, in poetry, also energetically, it is said that emotions and the water are related. We are emotional beings besides other things and other aspects of ourselves. Our emotional health brings fulfillment. And when I want to walk the waters or travel the waters, meaning the emotions and the emotional states of life and in life, and I choose to not do it one-handedly or all by myself, then it is a good idea to investigate and be curious. What ships are you interested in? And then find the right partner. And when you find a partner that you feel so drawn to and like a magnet pulled to, it is a good idea. Slow down, I think, and look, what are the values? What are the standards? Is that a good fit for my dream ship? Because sometimes we slide into relationships and we wake up one day, I don't even know how it happened. And I love humans. I truly do. And every time someone tells me that their heart is broken, I'm hurting too. And I truly believe that many wrecks can be avoided, or many ships can be avoided to get or become wrecked when we respect the ship itself, the relationships, much more. Now, because I'm the participant in a relationship, it requires me to respect myself as well. So back we are to square one: self-love, self-respect, self-care, self-development, self-acknowledgement, and the list goes on.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. The respect is a superpower almost to me. It's one of my lines in the sand, I guess you'd say, that cross that respect line and that will wreck our ship. Full stop. It's one of the conclusions.
And then it's sinking.
I have come to after many wrecks. And I think you're right too when you talk about society being very disposable nowadays. We've changed the way we live radically over the last few decades to becoming a society that mass produces and also mass throws out. We use something for a bit and then replace it with a new one. And somehow this way of living with physical things that are now much easier to get a hold of and to be disposable, that somehow translated into our emotional world. And I think that's a shame. And I think it's a shame to see some of the old standards slip away. Now, I'm not going to be judgmental about this because I think that there's always going to be cases where it's better that you don't stay in a ship for your own health and safety. But there are also instances where a ship can be fixed if you want to put the work in, put the effort in. And if it's valuable to you, why would you not put that work and effort in? And that's where it comes back to, as you say, ourself and our own values.
Step one, when it comes to ships or boats, whoever owns a boat or owned one or a ship knows that when there's damage that jeopardizes its safety, you take it out of the water. That's the first thing. Now, you see how language is, how many people say, we're out of the water by now. Yes, when there's a relationship that is about to sink, take it out of the water, meaning take it out of the emotional swamp. Take it out.
Yeah, I think that this is actually an excellent analogy here, because if you think back to what you know about stories of how ships used to be built when they were wooden, they would have to beach them regularly to scrape the hulls, take off the barnacles, reseal it so it was waterproof. And that was just considered regular maintenance. And it was a big job beaching a ship of that size. It took many people to help. So nobody did it on their own. There's a good analogies for relationships. So that's why I kind of love your ships and wrecks analogy, because it's a much better analogy, I think, to sort of understand that anything worthwhile needs maintenance. Your relationship with yourself needs maintenance. If you have a business, it needs it. If you have a family, it needs it. If you have an intimate relationship, it needs it. And most of all of these relationships should contain core values. And one of those for me is definitely respect. And if you want to know what our other guiding values are, you can grab Daisy's book, 5+2, The Formula for Finding True Love, because that contains the values that I believe are essential for any relationship to flourish and work. And a relationship takes more than one. You've got your relationship with yourself, and then your relationship with others, it takes more than one. So just remember that too, that you do your part the way you feel you need to do your part. You have no control over how the other people do their part. They either have a willingness to work with you at it or they don't. And sometimes you got to call it. It's a wreck.
Yes, and sometimes you walk away.
Yep, sometimes you have to.
You leave the wreck as it is.
But never go into it without knowing that it needs to be beached and maintained.
And before even going into it, I know of not a few, but many people who meet wrecks and then they think, oh, let me save it. Let me put it on the dry. I will work on it. And then they think they found a project. Well, the wreck does not want to be projected. It does not want to be maintained. It is a wreck. So many people find wrecks because they like antiques or the old stuff or even the sunken stuff. And then they go and deep dive. Then they look at it. But sooner or later, your oxygen goes low and you can't breathe anymore. It's dangerous. And projecting how beautiful that ship once was, that's now a wreck. Well, I leave the rest of the story up to our listeners to think about it. And I understand we have many listeners in cultures and or are traditionally bound to remain on the ship and in the ship while it's sinking, or hold on to the wreck because they can't see a way out for many reasons. Humanely, I think it is a good idea to find alternatives. Times changed. In many regions, laws changed. Cultures also evolve. And I wish for everyone and anyone hearing this episode to check, to find the love for a specific ship they like, and also know what waters you want to travel with that ship. Because there are kayaks, then there are canoes, then there are dinghies, then there are pontoons, there are sailboats, there are catamarans, there are motorboats, all sort of vehicles. But when I know what I'd like, I will more likely go that direction and find somebody who I want to enter that ship with. And then we have a chance to go far and enjoy the journey.
Well, thank you, Daisy, once again for your insight. We hope you like this episode, guys, and we hope that it inspires you to want better for yourself. Please do give us feedback anytime. Visit us on baldandblonde.live. While you're there, hit the support us button and throw us a few bucks for a cup of coffee. We would love that and your support. And most of all, please keep sharing our episodes with everyone you know so we can spread our inspiration around the world. That's it from us today. We'll be talking to you again real soon. We are Bald and Blonde.
Mindset Evolution. Talk to you next time. Thank you for listening in to the Bald and Blonde Mindset Evolution podcast. Please share our podcast with your family and friends. Together, we make this world a better place. For you, for us, for future generations. Visit us at baldandblonde.live to get freebies, give feedback, and even support us with as little as $1. Talk to you soon.